The following program is produced by the Alliance of Youth Leaders in the United States, a child organization of American Youth Leadership Foundation. Please support us to make contributions to our great nation.
Alright, so my parts just came in, and this is Vex Robotics. Vex Robotics is mainly for high schoolers, and it's a team match, which means you're paired up with a random ally, and you play a set game that's changed every year against two random opponents, and the team that scores the most points move on to the elimination rounds. And in the elimination rounds, the game plays down to 3 robots, and those 3 robots move on. So the game this year is Nothing But Net, and in that game, the challenge is to take 4-inch foam balls, be able to pick them up from the field, and launch these a distance of, I think, about 14 feet into the net across the field. Well, you can be closer, but the furthest distance is about 14 feet. And yeah, so these parts altogether are about $1,000. The bulk of it is in this box right here, which has the microcontroller, which is this. This is going to be the central, it's going to be the brain of the robot pretty much. This is the thing that controls everything. Here is the joystick, which is the remote controller. This is pretty much just a modified Xbox controller, so if you play games, it's probably going to be really familiar. These are the VexNet keys. This is what controls the joystick to the robot. This is just the wire. That's useless. That's a backup battery. Alright. So, I'm going to set up the camera somewhere right here, I think. Okay, place. Alright, so first thing I want to introduce is these. These are Omni wheels, and they're pretty much wheels that have like little wheels on them, and these are like the best part about Vex. Like, these wheels can, you know, move sideways as well as forwards and backwards. So if you have, let's see, let me take apart my other wheels. But the usual setup has 5 or 6 wheels, and what you would have is, let's see, a robot like this. So this would be your normal robot. It has 4 wheels, 2 on each side, and if we put 2 more in the middle like this, it now goes in all 4 directions. It can go, I'll just take these away. So we have these 2 wheels. They can go front, back, and they can go left and right, because these little wheels on the big wheel spin, so it can glide side to side with very little resistance. And these wheels all have this hole in the middle that's square, and this is what we used there. These are called shafts, drive shafts. These are made of steel, and I don't know if you can see this, but these are also little square. These are also square, so I'll just take this apart. But this is what they look like, and they fit inside these square holes, and now I can spin this wheel. So next thing I want to introduce is this. This is the, actually not this, I was just kidding. This is the microcontroller. This is the you know, the central unit of the robot. Let's see, how do I open this? But this the parts themselves were around, I believe, $400. This microcontroller itself was about $400, and motors and batteries and that stuff were about the rest of the $200. But yep, inside the fancy foam packaging we have this, and this is the VEX controller. This port right here is where you would plug it into a computer, and I'll show you what it looks like. Alright, so this wire, it's a USB male to male, and so yeah, there's pretty much a USB port right here, and you connect one into here, one into the computer, and then you can program it. Or when you want to pair it up with a remote, you use these, which are the VEX keys I was talking about earlier. These are actually, I believe these are the same frequency as your Wi-Fi, but I'm not sure. But what I know is they don't allow Wi-Fi during the competitions because it might interfere. And this is what they look like. They're flash drives, pretty much, big flash drives. This is the second version. The first version is black, and I think it was a different brand, different frequency of Wi-Fi. But yeah, you plug one end into here, and the other end into the microcontroller, which I haven't opened yet. How do you open this? Alright, so this is the microcontroller. So yeah, it's pretty much, you know, like a console controller, like a PSP, or not PSP, well PSP, but something like a PlayStation or something like a Xbox, or you know, that kind. There's also a USB port on the back. You can connect it to the computer to update the firmware, but you can't really program this because there's no point. But the other VEX key, okay, I can't open this. All this tape is really annoying. Oh my god. Well, I just ripped. Okay. So here's the second key, and first time you would do this, you would want to connect one end of the cable to the controller, one end to the CPU, and once they recognize each other, they'll assign a code to each other, and so that, you know, once you use these will be connected wirelessly. And so like I was talking about, the first time they connect, they'll assign a code to each other so that, you know, they'll know that which controller belongs to which brain, and so that, you know, there will be no interference during competitions. Okay, I think I just broke it. These on the side are wire clips. You can remove them, and I'll remove them later. But these are the pins. I don't know if you can see it, but there's pins in here, and that's where you plug your motors and stuff in. This is the battery. That's the on and off switch. These are the different, I think these are phone cables. Yeah, phone cables. This is the backup battery, and that's the reset. So this is just a board, a microchip, like, you know, like an Arduino board or a propeller board, but it's, you know, like pretty indestructible in this thing. Like, I've seen people throw this around and it still works fine. It's really hard to short this out because it's surrounded. I still don't recommend throwing this though because it's expensive. Now for the structure of the robot. This is what we use. Okay, this is called an aluminum C-channel. And the way they measure these, oh, these are nice. So there's steel ones and there's aluminum ones, but these are aluminum and they're really light, but they're still pretty strong. The way they measure them is by counting the number of these square holes. So this one will be a 1 by 2 by 1 by, and this, which is 25. I wanted to order the 35 ones, but I misplaced my order, and now I have these. But these are going to be, you know, the bulk of your robot. There's not just these, there's also L channels, which, you know, just pretend this side is missing and, you know, now you have an L shape. It's pretty much like that. But these C channels are pretty much what I use all the time. Now, for a simple base, like a base that can just, you know, drive around, I usually use 6 C channels, which is convenient because they ship in quantities of 6. But I have 2 for each side of the robot, so the wheel goes in the middle right here. There's 2 right here. Two right here, and 2 in the middle, so that, okay, a little further apart. 2 in the middle to hold the 2 ends together, and so that this wheel fits here. Usually I would have 2 wheels, but, you know, like I said, I misplaced my order, and now these are really short, so I'm probably only going to use 1 wheel. Maybe one behind, I don't know. But so the other 2 wheels go here, and this wheel goes somewhere else. The main thing that I use to attach them are screws, and these bolts come in, I think, 10 different sizes, and this is a package of 100, by the way. These are steel bolts. I think prior to a few years ago, bolts were made of aluminum, but now they're made of steel because these steel ones last a lot longer. Oh, and I don't know why they do this, but these aren't Phillip heads. These are, it's not focusing, but these are no, it is, or kind of. These are, what are they called? Hex. They're hexagons. Yeah. You need a hex screw to get them out. So, which is why I have a box of Allen wrenches. Okay, had a box of Allen wrenches. Yes, have. Okay, so I'm going to use this box of Allen wrenches later to do this. And they go into these nuts. There's 3 kinds of nuts. 3 kinds of nuts. These are called nylock because there's a ring of nylon inside. So once you screw these on, it's pretty hard to get them off, so don't mess up. Well, not that hard, but... And then there are the other kinds where they're supposed to be called kleps, but we call them octopi, because it's pretty much like this, except they don't have the nylon inside, and they have this weird ring underneath that just kind of like grabs onto the metal. They don't work very well. Like, they come loose very easily. So mostly we just use these nylocks. Oh, another good thing to note, these are called standoffs. These are, you know, the most useful thing I've encountered in my Vex life. Other than these structure pieces and like screws, these will help you a lot because they are very, very light because they're aluminum and they're hollow on the inside, but they're also really strong because they're round and they're in like a hexagonal shape. So these are very strong. And they're really good for connecting structure together. So I'm just gonna connect this for now. But these standoffs, they come loose very easily because there's no locking on them. Well, okay, I just dropped that. But what you can do is put Loctite, which is kind of like glue, on the screws before you actually screw them on, and they'll expand as they dry, so the screws won't come out as easily. Or you can just, make sure to tighten it before you do anything important with them. But and another thing is, these axles are square. These holes are also square. When you have a square object attempting to rotate in a square hole, it's, really bad. Like, first thing, it's not very stable because this axle is so much smaller than the hole. Second thing is, these flat edges, when they hit each other, they make... First, they wear away each other. That's the problem. It's going to make a huge hole in here if I use it for a long time. Second thing is, it just makes this noise, and after hearing it for a long time, it gets really annoying. So, Vex made these small parts called... if I can find them. Well, they're called bearing flats. And... I don't know where they are. Okay, there we go. These are called bearing flats, and I'll take them apart so you can see. But as you can see, these have round holes. So what you do is you take these bearing flats and you put them over the holes of the aluminum. So now you see there's a round hole, and because there's a round hole, this axle no longer moves around and it spins really smoothly. So these are definitely recommended. And to use these, I usually use, I think these are 0.625 inches. No, these are the 0.5. All right, so 0.5 inches. Okay, I'm pretty sure both would work, but I'm going to use the these are 1 inch. 0.625 inches. Just okay, I'm confused now. Yes, 0.625. So I can make sure that they don't fall off. But it's very simple. It's just, there's holes, and you put screws into these holes, and you put nuts on the screws so that the screws don't come back out, and you tighten the nuts, and that's essentially it. Now, this is a very, very basic design, so I'm not going to worry about anything like the wheels getting caught in anything. So I'm going to have the wheel very far out. Usually, because the way I'm building it, the wheel is going to be all the way out here. And usually it would be like back here, so that the wheel isn't sticking out, but it's sticking out, so that I have more space to work with. By the way, the Allen wrench size for these bolts are 332, I think. Yes, 332. I just need to find 332. No. Alright, I'm back, and I found the Allen wrenches. I'm probably going to cut out that 20 minutes just now, so you don't have to wait for me. Because I got distracted and went to go eat. But I'm back, and I have the Allen wrenches. For normal screws, it's 332, but for the motor screws, it's 5/64. Okay, now my wrench isn't working. Alright. So that's not working, but I need a smaller wrench than this. There's actually a set wrench that they sell on the Vex website, but I didn't buy it because I thought I was fine, but apparently I'm not. Because this big wrench is really annoying to use. And yeah, because it's big and it gets in the way. But before this, I actually used a program called Autodesk Inventor, and on that program I made a virtual robot. That program is used professionally by companies, and it's like $8,000, but you can get the student version, which is free. And the student version is pretty much a full version, except it has a big box on the top that says Student Edition. So yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. But it's really useful because there's physics, there's stress testing, which is really useful if you're designing, say, like a building or a machinery that's going to be, operating under really heavy loads. Oh, and by the way, you're probably going to want these, I'm having these two C channels next to each other, like this, but even then, I'm going to put a axle base on each side. What are they called? Bearing flat. I'm going to put a bearing flat on each side, because that's going to make the axle more stable, and so it doesn't make that annoying noise. Overall, once you the planning of the robot usually takes somewhere around, I would say, about a month or two. Actually, six to 8 weeks. That's the usual time frame for planning a robot, because the planning of a robot is the bulk of it. Because at this earlier levels, something like the Lego Mindstorms competition, or just the Lego Mindstorms in general, you can probably just make robots over and over again until you get the one that you want, or the one that's useful to what you're trying to do. But as these robots get progressively bigger, and especially now, you don't really have the time or the resources to be rebuilding robots. So you have to build them correctly the first time, which means that programs like the ones I just mentioned are very useful. Okay, most of this isn't in the camera, so I'm tilted this way a bit. But the programs that I just mentioned were very useful because you can just build it once, and then the program tells you exactly which parts you used, how many parts you used, so you can order the exact amount needed, and you don't need to put a robot together, find out that there was some small error with it, and then completely take it apart and start over, because you can just design everything in that program And once it's done, you can just copy what you built earlier step by step, and that saves a lot of time and resources, because just screwing in these bolts are taking an awfully long time. Majority of the robot time of the time it takes to build the robot is actually going to be putting these screws in, because these screws are pretty long and it takes a while to screw them in, especially if you don't have the equipment that they recommend, because even though these are like common household tools, the ones that they sell on the website I would probably recommend, because those are small and they're precise, and you won't have to use this big wrench and this big screwdriver for a tiny screw. So now that I have that, I can put the two C channels together, or not. I have to time the other side as well, but both sides, both this side and this side are gonna have wheels. So I have to add a bearing flat on both sides. This is the important part. Make sure whenever you're building anything that you have, because this is a small part that's going to be added to a bigger part to make the robot. So make sure you have, and this applies to everything, not just robotics. But whatever you're doing, make sure that everything on the first step is completed. I don't know how many times I've had where I put something together and then realized that before doing so I forgot to install a certain part that you can only install when the whole thing's not finished yet, because it's in a really hard to reach place. Then I had to take the robot apart just for that one small area, because once I put these two C channels together, I'm not going to be able to reach these screws. Like, these screws will be covered up, so I'm not going to be able to reach them. So I have to make sure I put these bearing flats on them beforehand. A lot of these terms are going to sound weird, but after just a bit of using robots and learning about how they function, it becomes a lot clearer. So if you don't understand now, don't worry, because this is my, I think, second year doing Vex Robotics. I've done First Lego League before, and that was pretty good. It taught me a lot about robotics, but it wasn't quite as how do I say it? It wasn't quite as time consuming as this, because Legos are really simple to put together and take apart. You don't have to plan for a Lego as much as planning for this, because with a Lego you could put it together, see what's wrong, see if you need to make any changes, and then take it apart and then add more pieces. But these, it took me, I don't know how long it was, but I'm guessing it's about 10 minutes to put in like 6 screws. So okay, I just got really off topic, but yeah, after messing with robots for a little bit, it's gonna be pretty easy to see how most of these parts work. There's certain mechanisms that are used a lot, both in these small robotics competition and in real life robots. There's something called a 4-bar. I don't know how many of you know about it, but 4 bars are I can't show you, but they're in almost everything. Imagine a rectangle. Imagine a rectangle that was made out of sticks, and when you pull on the corners, it makes a parallelogram. That's a 4-bar. Last year, we used a bunch of 4-bars put together to make a robot that can reach up really, really high. Some robots could reach over 6 feet, and these robots all have a size limit of 18 inches by, no, not, yes. Okay, 18 inches by 18 inches by 18 inches, which means that they have to start off at 18 by 18 by 18, but expand all the way up to 18 by 18 by, how many inches is 6 feet? 72. So 4 bars really. There's also 6 bars, which are, imagine if you put 2 squares on top of each other, and you pulled their angles at the same time, and you made 2 parallelograms. It's kind of like that. It's kind of confusing, but if you just Google 4 bar or 6 bar, you can probably see it. But these two mechanisms are used a lot, especially in robotic arms. I know that surgery robots, like the type of robots that they use to operate on people, have this because those are, when you equip them with the proper sensors, they're actually really precise and reliable. Alright, so this is the finished robot. This is the side that, no, this is the side that you guys watched me build. And what I pretty much did was I duplicated it to this side, connected with 2 C channels down here, one down there, one up here. I added 2 motors and 2 wheels. And then I just added a bigger C channel up top. Added the Cortex, plugged all the wires in, and then added the battery. This battery is a 3000 mAh, so it's like a phone battery pretty much. And yeah. So I finished building the robot. I finished programming it. But the thing is, these ports, some of these are 2-wire ports, some of these are 3-wire ports. and the 3-wire ports need a motor controller, which I don't have yet. So I'm controlling. I built a thing right here where I took a breadboard, and I'm pretty much splitting the signal to all the motors, and so the robot right now can only go forwards and backwards. If I wanted to turn, I'm gonna have to manually change the cables myself because I'm all operating off of this one port right here. And when I get the motor controllers, then I can assign each motor a different port, and then I can do some different maneuvers with them. But right now, I haven't programmed my VexNet keys yet, so I'm gonna have to use a USB to USB. But during competitions, the white keys that I showed earlier, those are the ones that we're gonna be using, and they're pretty much like the same thing as this, except it uses Bluetooth instead, so there's not a wire in the way. So they're going to go backwards, forwards, and I have sprockets in the back. I have these chains in the back so that it offsets the motor, because I need this area open for something else that I'm building. So that's why I have it chained like that. And this concrete surface isn't level, so the robot is turning a slight bit every single time. But that was turning, and I'll show you the middle omnis. So I'll unplug all of these, and I'll plug these in. Which will let the robot go left and right. So, as you can see, these two little wheels in the middle right here, when you use them together this lets the robot go diagonally with very little resistance. Go diagonally. It can go left and right. It can go forwards, backwards, and you can use these while you're turning, so it makes it kind of drifts the robot, so it makes these really smooth turns. So yeah, I can show you more when I get my motor controllers, because operating all the motors off of one port is really difficult. And yeah.
If you enjoyed this program, please join us. The Alliance of Youth Leaders website is www.aylus.org. We also have a Facebook group at www.facebook.com/groups/AYLUS. The American Youth Leadership Foundation website is www.aylfus.org.